Well, very nice to meet you, Luan, or just to have you on. I mean, we've been friends for a while. Maybe let's just obviously this topic of I love what you said to me today about love and money and how basically, can you have both love and money? And this seems to be a thing that often people who've got great love may not have money, or people who got money doesn't have love. But what your whole message is that you can have it all. And this is why I'd love to get you to share your wisdom as we start this amazing 4-week series to help people find love, whether in a new relationship or an existing relationship, so you can have it all. That's the basic
Yeah.
aim of this, to bring in your expertise and maybe just tell everyone a bit about yourself and your background, because I know about you, but maybe not everyone here does.
Okay. Well, I am a high-end matchmaker. I have been working pretty much in the same job of helping people find relationships since I was 21. So I've had my own business pretty much since I was 23. And and for me, it's all about helping people so that they never feel that they're not loved. I think the greatest tragedy that we have is that we can be successful, we can have the world at our feet, but if we don't have someone that cares about us and we're not caring about them, we're not having a very fulfilled life. Okay. So there'll always be that missing component. So as a high-end matchmaker, dating coach, dating expert, I've had more than 25 years experience helping people in all facets of their relationships. Sometimes it's their relationships with each other, where they were a couple, particularly if I've actually matched them. They will tend to come to me as a couple at a later date. And I have the big belief that if you work at the front end of the relationship, if you did coaching or mentoring at the front end of your relationship, you wouldn't need counseling at the back end of the relationship. So my work is all very much about sharing content, writing, educating, because we learn a lot in life, but no one teaches us how to have a relationship.
No, no, it's something which I was saying this to someone. We get taught all kinds of things in school, but no one ever actually teaches you, number one, how to manage your finances and how to make it. And nobody teaches you how to have a proper relationship. So all we've got to go on is our parents, and usually if they don't give the best examples, or Hollywood, of course, which is the epitome of beautiful examples.
Yeah, look,
of what,
I actually explain it to people that, your first 6 or 7 years of life, that is when you're learning. You won't learn more in the whole rest of your life than what you'll learn in that first 6 or 7 years. And that's what is our early childhood programming. I like to call it like Windows version 1. Okay, so Windows version 1 goes in, the program goes in, what we see, hear, experience from not just our parents, but from our caregivers. And that's what forms our perceptions about relationships. And it doesn't matter, we can have very healthy relationships, later on in life, but that early program is still in there. And that's what forces patterns, that's what causes trauma bonding, a whole pile of things. So you're correct. We learn relationships from our parents, but we're not taught information that is information that can be used in lots of different relationships, because there's no one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter version of how you relate to this person is very different to how you can relate to the next person. So being able to communicate effectively to find out the differences in, personalities and desires, that's what it comes down to.
yes. Yes, no. So numbers are filling up, so people are definitely interested in this topic. So yeah, so where do we start, Luan? I mean, you obviously know a lot about this kind of area, and you've been all over the media and all that. Maybe we listed about it, some of the different things that we'll be covering in our series and what will be getting looked at. But things like, probably a good starting point is, why is it that successful people or people with money or just successful people often struggle in relationships or struggle to build decent relationships? And I know you and I have both spoken about it and how we've had our challenges, and I've had very good partners, like a marvelous one who unfortunately passed away, and I've had a couple of horrors. So what is it that makes it so difficult for success? We've all had our horrors. I know you've had your one or two horrors, which you've told me about. So what is it that makes successful people struggle to build relationship and end up getting some living, walking nightmares?
Okay. What makes people struggle is the inability to be able to see the other side.
Yeah,
Okay, because there's two sides of everything. What a
yeah.
woman wants in a relationship and what she looks for and what she presents herself as. So if you've got a successful woman, and I know that because I deal with a lot of successful women, and they
Yeah.
really struggle to what they classify to find their equal. And the perception is because they're told by society, they're told by their girlfriends, and when a relationship doesn't work out, they always put it down to men are intimidated by me. Now, a man is
Mm.
not intimidated by a woman unless she is really super beautiful. They're more intimidated by super beautiful women than what they are super smart, super successful women. The word intimidation is just a word, okay? And so that's the perception. So when a relationship for a successful woman doesn't work out, she'll say, "Oh, they were intimidated by me." So it's almost like they've got an excuse. They've got a reason why it didn't work. So they don't have to have any accountability or ownership for a relationship not working. What a woman actually wants and what she presents herself as is what she wants. Okay, so she wants a man that's strong and driven and confident and a decision maker. What she does is showcases a lot of the time those qualities in herself. So when she's dating, the very same qualities that she's looking for are the qualities that she's bringing to the table, thinking, hey, these are all my good selling points. This is all the value I can add to the relationship. You don't have to pay for me. I can pay for myself. I can work for myself. I don't need a man. The five words that should never come out of a woman's mouth. And these are all the things that she finds attractive in a partner. But for a man, he really couldn't give a flying hoot whether a woman is highly successful or whether she's, you know, a hairdresser. You can be a highly successful hairdresser, didn't mean stereotype there, but you know what I mean. She could work in Bunnings, she could work in, the supermarket. A man doesn't really look for the same things as what a woman will look for. So a man is actually sometimes better at choosing a quite compatible partner, but they often choose women just for their looks, unfortunately. I'm going to put it out there. Men are very visual. And so that they want to all punch above their weight in a looks department. So a lot of the reasons why a man won't settle for a relationship is he just doesn't want to do the work. He's got too half-assed. And I know you're laughing because we've had this conversation, but
Yeah. Sprung.
the more successful a man gets, the less value acts of service have to him. Okay, so if a woman thinks, well, I can do this and I can do that, I can do all these things, and well, we won't jump too far ahead. He doesn't need that because he can pay anybody to, and outsource all the menial things,
Yeah, like
what he's
cooking,
looking
cleaning. Yeah.
for, cleaning, you know, well, he can even outsource someone to go to dinner with him, for goodness sake. So there's a lot of things that he can pay for. And a woman can too, but we're just not wired the same. Men want peace, actually. So what they're looking for in a relationship primarily is someone that can bring them peace. I like to say somewhere soft to lay their head at the end of the night. And it's not that a lot of women, I don't know, but sometimes get frustrated when I say something like that because they're like, oh, well, he just wants a handbag, and I'm an intelligent woman and I like to talk to a man. It's like, well, that's great. He loves to have intellectual conversations as well, but just not all the time. And okay, you tell me when you are looking for a woman, I could probably tell you the three or four words that a man will often say. Kindness usually comes up. playfulness, someone that's
Yeah.
playful and that's kind,
Playful and fun. Yeah. Someone who's fun for me.
fun.
Fun.
Someone that's feminine. The femininity isn't just about the way a woman looks either. It's
Yeah.
her nonverbal, it's her mannerisms, it's her actions, it's, you know, a lot of those things. So the kindness, the fun, the ease,
And
the,
nurturing. Nurturing's a big one for me too. Nurturing.
the caring.
Yeah.
No, that when we talk about intimacy, you say nurturing. I would put that under the intimacy
Yeah.
basket
Intimacy.
because
Yeah.
intimacy is where you are holding hands, you're sitting on the couch next to each other, sometimes just in silence. You don't have to be talking all the time. That intimate connection of, hey, I've got you here, letting you breathe, you know. We'll talk about the man cave at some point, hopefully in this conversation, because it's really relevant in understanding how the brain systems of a male and a female are different. And again, we don't take those into consideration when we're choosing a mate and when we're looking at the conflict in a relationship of how we're wired differently.
Yeah. No, it's so true, isn't it? Like, there's so many things you could veer off on tangents, but yeah, you're dead right. Like for a man, do you know? I remember when my partner died 2.5 years ago. Um, the thing I really missed, there was a lot of things I actually didn't like. Like she used to cook for me. I end up hiring a friend of mine to come in as a housekeeper, and that's what she would do. She would cook for me. She would clean, make sure my bed was made. Like basically give it a good turnover once a week, kind of do all the basics for me. And I even remember saying to her, I said, losing my partner actually worked out better for me financially because it saved me money because, she definitely liked to spend money. And of course, I was able to outsource most of her roles. The thing that I actually missed was that intimacy, just like you said, the little things where you could kind of lie on the bed and just have a chat at night, or when you were having a really difficult few days and you're feeling really out of sorts, someone you could just lie down with and talk about it, who give you a bit of a cuddle and just tell you that, yeah, you're going to be okay. And that's what you do. Whereas now when I have those days, I just kind of lie and give myself a bit of a cuddle, or ring one of my friends and basically have a bit of a chat with them. So yeah, you're right. It's the biggest thing a man wants. If you've got intimacy and connection, for me, if I don't have that, I wouldn't see the point of having someone.
Yeah. Well, and the affection is part
Yeah.
of that. See, a very common question that I get asked in, these sort of platforms is, what do you think the most important thing in a relationship is, Luann? So, that is a question I get asked all the time. And people are quite shocked when I say, well, I think sex is the most important thing in a relationship. And I can probably see people rolling their eyes right now at the thought of that. But if you looked at a relationship like I don't know, like a pyramid, and we say this is all the components, all the things that we want to put into this relationship, and sex sits as the cherry on the top. And the reason I believe it's the most important factor is it's that one thing that we're supposed to be doing only with the one person if you're into a monogamous relationship. So that is everything else, a conversation, a hug, a smile, some caring, all of that can come from multiple people. But the sex is the one thing that bonds us together, that we're doing with that person, that we're not doing with anybody else. So if that sits as the cherry on the top, spilling down from the cherry is the intimacy. When you are making love to your partner, you are connecting with them. You are connecting to their sight. You are connecting to their soul. You are connecting to their heart. Sometimes you just purely, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I would, use a word starting with F if I was going to. Because sometimes it's just that pure animal, magnetic attraction. So there's lots of different levels of, the sexual act. But if we don't have that in a relationship, guess what we've got? A friendship. We don't have a relationship. We don't have an intimate relationship. So it's that one thing that comes into the relationship. It won't keep a relationship together. Okay, so you can't base a relationship on sex. There's got to be other things, got to be other things there. But if I challenge you to speak to just about anybody that broke up from a relationship, that a relationship ended, and if you ask them, were you guys still having sex? They'll say no. It's very, very rare, unless there was an infidelity. Sometimes if there's an infidelity, they were still having sex with their partner because their partner would do that, or narcissistic people will have multiple partners. But generally, that's the first thing. And the first sign of trouble, where you know you're in trouble, is if you're not making love to your partner. Sex leads to intimacy. The intimacy leads to trust. When you're being intimate with somebody, you're telling them things, you're sharing parts of your mind, your soul, your emotions, your fears, your struggles, you're sharing all of those. That's trust. And that you need the intimacy to have the trust. And then you've got the friendship that falls into the bottom category. But if you turn that upside down and you've just got the friendship, everything funnels out the other way because the sex isn't there to bring you close together. And it's the same thing, conflict resolution. Not that you should use sex to not deal with conflict, but later on in the conversation, you can ask me what I believe the 6 S's are to solving any problem in a relationship. It's kind of funny, but yeah. So for me, I believe that for two people to really have a good relationship, a connected relationship that has all of the components, it's got to start with that respect and friendship and connection, and a lot of that comes from making love, from sex.
Yeah, it makes you think. There's a lady called Diane Richardson who wrote a book called Tantric Love, and she's teaching about the art of tantric intimacy. And she told a story when she was counseling, and she had a man come to her. He had a bit of a conflict. He said, but he was in love with 2 women, and so she said, "I do just want to go with one of them." And so when he broke it down with her, it worked out one of the women, he got on really well with, like they had a really great connection, but the sex was average. The second woman, the sex was absolutely amazing, very deeply connected, but they would every now and again have clashes. And she straight away said, go with the second woman. Because if you got the deep sexual connection and the intimacy, the reason that you're clashing is more likely because she really cares about you and there's a deep bond between you where you love each other. And then he actually said, that's actually true. So she said, go with the lady, but you're having the better sex and the deeper connection with, and that's what he did.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I just wrote something last night. I haven't published it yet, but it's why do women punish the men that they like best? Okay, so if you had a woman and she's got 2 men that are chasing her, or pursuing her, we should probably say, and one of them is really heavily pursuing her, he's a good match, he's doing all the right things, she's not really that into him. Then you've got the other guy who she's really into, who's not really showing up as much as she wants him to. She's not cutting him any slack. What happens is, because she's triggered emotionally, because she's more invested in the guy that she likes more, she's going to punish him more. So if the guy that she doesn't like very much didn't call her for 2 days, she's not going to care. She'll be like, oh, well, he didn't call me for 2 days. But it wouldn't raise any emotional upset in her. But if the guy she liked didn't call her for 2 days, she's going to be pissed. So it's going to bring up emotions for her. And then what happens is she will project onto him, hey, you didn't do this and this and this. So we don't cut that person, you don't cut that guy the same slack as what you cut a guy that you're not interested in. So this is why we have to really learn where our own insecurities are and how they're playing a role in our relationship.
Yeah, it makes me think of a girl who I used to punish years ago. And it was exactly that. I really liked it, and a lot. And she would just suddenly go missing for a couple of days on text. So I ended up getting frustrated and writing her a text, and she'd then get upset, like, why do you send me these texts? And years later, when we met up one time at coffee when we were clearing some things out, and she said to me, you know, in hindsight, she said, I realized I didn't know what I know now. She said to me, I realized that in hindsight, by me just not texting you back was kind of giving you the message I wasn't really into you. And I had other priorities. When she said, in my mind, it's like, oh, he should just wait for me. And she said, I could see why you were, because you really did like me. And in hindsight, I really did like you too. And I really wished I'd done things differently, because she said, you know, I could see now that it was because you cared that you were doing that. You really were trying to reach out to me and just get me to connect with you. And I said, that's actually true. And she said, whereas in my mind, it's like, oh, you're just being silly and insecure. I'll kind of, you know, you're annoying me, so I'll just ignore you a bit longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you know why, Warren, is people
Yeah,
make it about them. He's not calling me because he might not be interested in me. Oh my God, maybe he's seeing somebody else. All of these stories start running through their mind
yeah.
and cause yourself an emotional disturbance. Whether it's reality or whether it's not reality, it's the same emotional chemicals. It's the same thing as, you know, if we think a thought about having a partner that we really desire and how good that would feel, and we really could immerse ourselves in the thoughts of how good it feels to just have that person that's there, and we actually feel that in our emotions, because if we can think it, we can feel it. If we feel it, they're the exact same chemicals is as if happening already. So it's a real, and I guess that's a lot of mindfulness practice that a lot of people um, teach, that your mind is super powerful. So when you start going down that rabbit hole, oh, where is he? Why didn't he call? That same trauma response in your body is felt and held in your body, and the memories of that comes up. So relationships start triggering all of these past narratives and stories and experiences. And you know what? Sometimes they're not even our experiences. Sometimes they're the experiences of our parents. So we watch, you know, mummy, you know, get beaten up by daddy. So if a man's like slightly aggressive, that trauma that's held in you will come up. And he might not be physically aggressive, but men need to get out their anger. And if they're not kind of playing sport and they're not doing that in the boardroom, you know, you have to be able to get that testosterone producing activities, you know, so raising a voice or, you know, that kind of aggression isn't necessarily harmful unless it's toxic, but it's just part of a relationship. However, the response that can have, and that on somebody that's actually experienced these things in the past, is the same as reliving it again.
Mm. Yeah, interesting comment here. Warwick says, over the years, I've had some fuckwit mates, bikers who enjoy treating women like shit. They were never short of having good-looking girls by their side. What the fuck is wrong with these women? I'm sure you can explain that one pretty easily.
Well, look, we're always we're always looking to fill a void, Warren. You know that. It is always about filling the void. One of the things that I will look at when I'm matching people, so in my matchmaking practice, I don't just listen to what the person says that they want. I look at their life and say, well, what areas of life are you empowered in? Where have you got it together? And what are your voids? Because if you don't get someone that can fill those voids, the chances are that you're not going to be able to develop a lasting relationship with the person. If you have and I'm going to use this as an example because it is a very relevant example. You have an older, successful, wealthy man. He's divorced. Maybe he hasn't been married, could be a perpetual playboy. But let's just say that it's his second time round. His marriage has ended. He's wealthy. He's successful. What does he go for? He'll go for the younger, beautiful, glamorous woman. And society will say, and friends will say, and social groups will say, oh, well, she's only with him for the money. and he's only with her because he wants a handbag. He's going through a midlife crisis. There's a whole pile of labels. And I say, yes, of course, because they're filling each other's voids. She wants the finances and the security and the stability, and he wants to be the envy of other men because that's how successful men are the leaders of the pack. They like to be the envy, that they get the respect. How do you get the respect of other men? Is to achieve in all of the areas in life. So they look at you and they go, wow, you're successful and you're fit and you've got your health and you've got this amazing woman. And it's a fair exchange. They're polar opposites, but they're actually bringing something into each other's lives. You've got to look at biology as well, because as a man gets older, his testosterone starts dropping. He uses a lot of his testosterone doing the fight at work. Okay, so problem solving, making decisions, doing the grind, that depletes your testosterone. What brings testosterone up? High estrogen. Who has high estrogen? Younger women. So of course he's going to feel more invigorated when he's more attracted to this woman, but that attraction isn't just, what it looks like here or here. It's actually biology as well. You've read and seen uh, lots of documentaries and things on pheromones, the way someone
Yeah.
smells, same kind of thing. That's why we can't ignore, the chemical reaction of biology as well.
Yeah, so true, isn't it?
Mm. And it's something that is overlooked when it comes to people selecting a partner. And why did my partner do this? And why isn't this person doing that? If you can't, you will relate to this. Our partners are like our customers. If we treated our customers like half the people treat their relationships, their partners, well, they wouldn't have any customers. I'm going to assure you of that.
No.
We're always trying to figure out a way to retain our customers. What else can I give them? What else can I bring to the table for my customers? How else can I on-sell them? How else can I keep them coming back for more? Who does that in their relationship? I mean, like how many people, I don't know how many people are joining us today, but how many people can really actually put their hands up and say categorically that they're always looking for ways to re-seduce their partner? They're not.
No, not
Any
very
hands
many.
up, Warren? Because we have to re-seduce our customer all the time. Hey, I've got this new service. Hey, I've got this new book. Hey, I've got this new, podcast. Hey, I've got this, because we're trying to add value to their life,
Yeah.
trying to get them interested in us, even if they lost interest because of whatever reason. We're still trying to get them re-interested and reinvested into what we're doing. And that's how relationships should be. And people don't know how the word seduction is a little bit confused as well. It's not about sexual seduction. It's about, how do I get my partner interested in me? Well, I've got to do something different, which is exactly how you keep your customers coming back, by giving them something different, something new, something fresh.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember saying this to my partner when I was with her years ago, and I always chuckle because when we talked about early on when she said to me that, and we talked about sex and part of our and I was just very honest with her. I said, well, obviously if it's good and I feel you're making an effort, I'll probably keep doing it. If you basically, if I can see you lose interest and don't listen to what I'm saying, I'll obviously go somewhere else. And she actually laughed and goes, okay, and she goes, you can rest assured, I'll make sure that you never have to worry in that area. And she made sure I didn't. So,
Look, nobody likes to be betrayed. It's the worst feeling.
oh,
And
it's
it's
awful.
so damaging. It's so, so damaging. And you have got some very narcissistic people out there, and it doesn't matter what you do into a relationship, what you bring. It's not your fault that somebody betrays you. Okay, but it is wise to learn from that betrayal so that you don't fail again at the hands of someone that's likely to do that again, and to be able to question yourself and ask yourself, what can I do differently? Is there something that I wasn't doing? Self-reflection
Yeah.
is really important. Did I listen to that person? Did I, was I engaged? Was I bringing the best version of myself? Was I making an effort? Like all the things we do have to say, okay, did I play it? Well, of course we played a role in it. If anybody's been, I've had a wildly, you know, bizarre relationship where the person that I was with betrayed me in a way that I never saw. And when you have to take accountability for it, and you have to say, well, all right, well, how did I let that happen? Why did I let that happen? What wasn't I aware of? And all of those things, those questions you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. So when you basically got betrayed, and I know you went through it, and I know I went through it, what was the process that you went through? Because when it happened to you some time ago, what was your process in dealing with it?
Okay. Well, if we have a graph of the emotional scale right now, and it's a shame we didn't know we were going to have this conversation, but I allow myself to go through the emotional scale. And the worst emotion that we can feel is despair, depression, anxiety, that lowest of lows. And I let that happen and I sit with it, because taking an antidepressant or something like that is not, for me, it's not the way around it. That's just suppressing everything that's just going to come up later. So I would just work at going through that emotional scale. We cannot go from being depressed to fucking happy in one leap. This is just an unrealistic expectation of yourself and of what a lot of, motivational coaches want you to do. Oh, just put on a smile and do this. It's like, you can't get from here to here. It's too far. But you can get from depression to anger. Much better to be angry than it is to be depressed, because anger is like, oh, okay. Because from anger, you get revenge. You start thinking, right, and revenge is solving a problem. And then you start going from a bit of hopelessness to uh, feeling despondent, whatever. But each step is a step up, and going through that and checking in with yourself. Right, how do I feel right now? How can I just step up just one notch? So rather than feeling depressed, I can feel angry. And rather than feeling angry, I can feel vengeful. And rather than feeling revenge, how can I feel, until you get to the point of being hopeful, of being
Mm.
peaceful, and just working through that. So for me, it's actually sitting with the emotions, letting them come, dealing with them, making links to how it's benefiting me. Because what happens naturally to us is, as
Mm.
soon as something like that happens, we go down that rabbit hole of, this is such a bad thing. Oh my God, how did this happen? It feels like this, it did this, it hurts this way. So we have just labeled this experience, this terrible experience, and now we're polarized. And because we're polarized, we're really imbalanced in the mind. A balanced mind doesn't see these great big polarities of it only being wrong, because there's some rightness in the wrongness. And I can assure you, once you work through the process, and it's particularly a process that I take people through, because I deal with a lot of people that come to me through having these relationships. And a lot of time they think they're ready. And I had one conversation with them. I think, you're so far not ready. Like, a new person is not going to come and heal you. You have to work through these things. And when you're still
Mm,
labeling it a bad, negative, terrible thing, you haven't worked through it.
mm,
Because that bad has the good and the good has the bad. So I started asking myself the questions of, what is it I'm really pissed off with? For a start, specifically, not just, oh, well, he cheated. Okay, cool. What did that mean? What did he actually do? He broke my trust. Okay, so you look at broken trust. Well, and then dissecting the times where I perceived he broke my trust, and then looked at the opposite side of that. Oh, okay, well, what was the benefit to him breaking my trust? Here, 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 and here. Because if he hadn't, a whole pile of things that happened to me couldn't have happened to me.
mm. That sounds like John D. Martini.
A very demartini, very
Yeah.
much and I use a lot of processes because you can get so much if you put this learning and this learning and this learning together. But I have to say, for myself, when I was involved in this situation, the self-development actually became a little bit toxic for me. And by that, I mean, whenever I would get triggered, I would literally go too far the other side and never really make it about the other person. So rather than seeing red flags, I would take accountability for everything. Okay, he didn't call when he said he was going to call. Well, if I get upset, that's my trigger, and I've got to work through that.
Mm,
So I learned a lot of this behavior and the self-awareness of being able to go back and reflect and say, what role did I play in this? And the role I played was allowing certain things to happen and making it about my responsibility for my own emotions. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
makes very good
if
sense.
we get that self-reflection, how are we going to learn from the next time? If we can't see, there was two people that played a role. What role did you play? There's one thing I
Yeah.
can tell you about the dynamics of relationships. Men, okay, not all men are bad men. Most men actually are really good. And most men don't set out to hurt a woman. Men don't go out going, oh, yeah, I might just, screw this girl over. Most men don't do that. But most women have been hurt by men. So sit with that for a moment. Most men don't go out to hurt women, but most women have been hurt by men.
Mm,
Father, brother, uncle, lover, husband, whoever it is. So you have a lot of repeat offenders out there. And for the average guy, the good guy, he's tired of being blamed for the mistakes of other men or for the crimes of other men.
yeah, there's a very good comment here. There's a question here from someone, which would
Yeah.
be good to get your opinion on, Louanne. I mean, it's a good thing we're talking about with the betrayal and working on yourself. But Deborah says, we want to come to relationship whole. I don't want any voids filled. I don't want a dependent relationship. Both be emotionally intelligent. Will we be looking today at attracting a partner? Even a first date would be good. Laugh out loud. So,
Okay.
any comments on that? Attracting a
Yeah,
partner?
I do because I think it's a it's kind of a beautiful thing to want to come into a relationship whole. But if there's
Yeah.
no need, we need to have a need. Okay. So if you don't need something from the other person, what value are they bringing to you? So to say, yeah, I'm a whole person because I've worked through my shit and I've done the stuff and I'm not bringing past traumas, that's important because your past traumas will ruin your next relationship because your new relationship can only be as bad as your last breakup, as good as your last breakup kind of thing. So yes, to work on yourself and bring a whole version of yourself, but to actually believe that you're not going to need something from that other person because you're whole is, why would a man want to date you if you don't need him? It's like running a marathon, training 3 years for this big event that you know you're going to lose, that there's no chance that you can win. You just would not put in the time and effort to do something that doesn't at least have the opportunity to have a win. Man wants to serve. Men want to be needed. They actually need it for their testosterone levels. If they're not doing anything for you, and I can give you a very good example. If you look at the caveman, we'll go back to caveman days. What happens is he's got to go out, he's got to have very high testosterone. He's got a stick with a little arrow on the end, and he's got to go and kill a beast to feed everybody in the cave. So off he goes to hunt. His testosterone is very high. He's in predator mode. He needs to survive. So he hunts. Hopefully he brings back the beast. Everybody eats. He's not getting up straight away and going, right, okay, I'm going to go out and hunt again, because his testosterone has dropped, because he doesn't need to have it. He's been fed, and he's now man caving. It's where it came from. He's now in the cave going, I've got half a beast. I don't really need to fight for my survival at the moment. So his testosterone drops. If he is not needed, he's lazy, dependent. And this is why a lot of successful women go, oh my God, I just attract weak men. They just don't step up for me. I have to make all the reservations in restaurants. They can't even decide where to go or to make a booking. And this is because you're lowering a man's testosterone by the notion of, I don't need any voids to be filled. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just not this level of happiness. Going, I've got all my traumas, all myself. I'm great. I've got this level of happiness. Is that the only level that you want, or do you want to go up the next level? What could give you the next level of happiness, that next joy? Having those experiences with a man, striving towards something, working towards something, having amazing sex, having amazing conversations, having connection, having help, having love, having,
like for example, when I had my relationship with Sammy, when I first went into it, I wouldn't have thought I had any major voids, but I realized very quickly that I had a few traumas based on past relationships, and she hadn't had traumas based on past relationships because she hadn't had one before me. So I can remember feeling very humbled by that. And I probably had a large healing with her because, she was very, she basically, I was able to kind of express myself when I was with her or whatever else. And it was a good healing, So relationships aren't always perfect. They can be messy with your healing.
The void isn't trauma either. So the lady that asked that question, well, it's a really good question, because we do want to be always asking yourself, where are my traumas going to ruin this relationship? Where are my insecurities going to ruin this relationship? So to come as someone that's actually worked on yourself, what a beautiful, offering that is in a relationship. But allowing a man to be able to step up and provide for you, and he doesn't need to provide the same things anymore, because all men know that we don't need them except their sperm. We can survive. We can support ourselves. We're not having a role mate relationship anymore. It's a soulmate relationship. So they know, but he's still got to be able to do something to bring value, because if a man's not bringing value, he's not needed. He's not serving. He's going to want that person who has some appreciation for him, who says, wow, I really love that you ran my bath for me tonight. Now, does he need to do that? Is that a void in being able to run your own bath? No, it's not. So I think sometimes the word void can be a little bit sort of, depending on your perception of it. It's not necessarily that something's missing, but for a lot of successful women, we're making all the decisions. The buck stops with us. We're responsible to paying people, to making sure our kids are okay, to do all of these things. We've got to receive that because that's feminine energy. And this is the thing that is a lot of women's voids. The successful woman, I'll tell you where her void is. It's in feminine energy. It's not in the femininity of how she looks. It's in the feminine energy. And for her to be able to be in feminine energy, she has to be able to receive. And if she's not receiving him supporting her and, being in that traditional gender role, she's got to be receiving in other ways. Love, kindness, affection, respect, monogamy, a whole pile of things, but she has to receive.
Yeah, there's a few very good comments here. I'm going to mention them all.
Yeah,
I'm sure we have some comments. There's 3 really good comments from people listening. Darlene says, great advice, but a lot of men don't step up. So how do you let them do it if they don't actually get that? And then Eileen says, I agree with Darlene. A lot of men don't step up, but I also think there's much confusion. Things like men don't know if they can hold the door open for a woman anymore. And I've heard men say that they've been told off by women when they do. And if we date, who pays? It's really confusing. And that's really good. And finally, you just might be interested to know Deborah, who made the previous one, said, thank you, saying exactly what I needed to hear. No wonder men haven't been knocking at my door. So, and yes, why we all could be triggered and have extra stuff to work on ourselves. So good comments so far. But so what do you think about Darlene's comments?
Men don't step up for women. Most common thing I hear. That is because you don't let them. You are in masculine energy. You might paint your nails and do your hair and do your makeup and put your nice clothes on, your sexy lingerie on, and think that that's feminine energy. Well, that's part of it, yes. But feminine energy is receiving. It's actually being able to go into feminine and do nothing. You shouldn't be doing things for a man. Who should pay on the date? Let me get this very clear right into the camera. The man. The man. If a man is too stingy to pay for your food, this is a bit of a problem. However, there has to be a fair exchange. It can't just be you taking and not giving something back. So there has to be a way that you are providing something for him so that he's benefiting and you're benefiting. So you might pay for the ice cream after dinner. He might have paid for the dinner. We're talking about the early dates. But the offer of, should we go halves with that? Would you like me to pay half? I don't do it. I just don't do it. I'm sorry. I don't do it. I don't use dating apps though. Okay. So if I go out on a date with a man, it's because I've met him organically. It's the only way I've ever met men. So if he asks me out on a date and I say yes, there's already a little bit of interest there. But when you meet on a dating app and you meet for the first time, this is not a date. That is an arrangement to meet. You don't know each other. You don't know whether there's any attraction. You haven't had that. So I think under those circumstances, men do get a little bit tired of, the women that actually use dating as a recreation. Oh, what are you doing on the weekend? Oh, I've got, gym on Friday night and I've got Tony on Saturday. And then I've got this, oh, Kevin, I've got to go out with him. And it's just free food. The men are tired of that. So I think so that's what they do. It's professional free food. So I think you've got to really look at what you're classifying as a date and an arrangement to meet for the first time on a dating app. I think it's polite to offer. If he asks you on a physical date, I really enjoyed your company. Would you like to go out again? Then I wouldn't be offering at all. There does have to be something that you do back, cook him a meal or make the picnic or, there's ways that you can give back in feminine, but you've got to remember, women, we do too much at the moment. And we're not the mothers. The mothers are the nurturers. I've got a course on feminine energy and it talks about the different levels, your queen, your goddess, your mother, and figuring out who you are and what you're bringing to that relationship and having that self-awareness of going, okay, If I go into the mothering role, he's never stepping up for me. And it's hard to step away from being a nurturer. It's hard to step away from that because it comes naturally to us. But to actually know, where does goddess need to come in? Where does queen need to come in? Where does the inner child need to come in? On a date, queen should not be there. She's over there. She looks after your finances. She makes your decisions on your finances. You don't want inner child doing your finances. She'll spend the money on really dumb stuff. You bought a $5,000 handbag? Yes, so your inner child will spend money where, so you don't want her controlling the fact. So being able to have all these different sides of yourself and knowing when to tap into it. The man's not stepping up for you because you're not training him. And someone's going to say, I don't want to have to train a man. Tell me where that is in the comment. It's going to come soon. I don't want to train a man. He should already know. He's been trained, first of all, by his mother, number one. And I don't know, I really like my mother-in-law, but she didn't train him very well. Then he's been trained by his ex, all of his exes. And guess what? They're different from me. And what they need is different from what I need. I don't have the same needs. So I have to, when I meet a man, I have to train him how I like to be, what's important for me, where I need him to show up. And I don't want that to sound derogatory to men. But if you have positive reinforcement and a woman says, I really love it when you open the car door for me. I really like that. I like that chivalry.
Mm.
That's training him. That's telling him what it is that you like. And when men say, oh, I've been told off by women, get over it. She doesn't like it. That's fine. But that doesn't mean to say, I'm not doing it because one woman told me off. Be you. If you like to open a car door for a woman, open the freaking car door for a woman. Don't let somebody else's training or lack of, change who you are fundamentally. Grow from it, but don't suppress yourself.
No, I couldn't agree more about the training because that's something that I learned from a really good psychologist friend of mine, and how he said, you got to train the woman and she's got to train you. And because both of you have needs, and if you're serious about each other, like most likely he said to me, you would want to make your woman feel good with you. And I'm like, yeah. So he said, she needs to train you, but you need to train her as well. And so, little things like, for example, with me, I would say to her, it really makes me feel good when you respond to my messages quickly, because my partner in the beginning was a very slow responder. I said, otherwise my head starts racing. And she goes, oh, okay, I'll just be more aware. And then she did start responding. But then equally, she once said to me, she said, now, babe, she said, I love cooking food for you, but when you keep coming into the kitchen all the time when I'm trying to cook, it's really annoying. Can I ask that, so I can enjoy cooking for you, but you stay out of the kitchen when I'm cooking? And I said, okay, that sounds really good. So she was training me when she did that.
And that's what we need to do. We need to. I have a post that actually went a little bit viral. And it was 4 words that you should never say to a man. We need to talk. We need to talk. That's his shutdown. He's like, oh, fear of God. But if you said, hey, babe, I've got something to run by you. It's no big deal. But when you've got 5 minutes, I just want to run something by you. It's a completely different emotional response in him. And that's how we train him to be able to be open to us and to listen to us and connect with us emotionally. But when we say, we've got to talk, we need to talk, he's always going, oh, fuck, no. Oh, I'm in trouble, shit. And he's going to avoid, because who likes getting in trouble? Nobody.
Yeah, we need to talk, or no, I'm fine. They're the 2 worst words.
Yeah. And that was a post I did just the other day, those 2 words that'll shut him down. And that is, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then what happens is that those I'm fine, they start bubbling. And they bubble more and more and more, because in a woman's mind, she's thinking, well, you should know what's wrong with me. Because we had this discussion last night about you not pulling your weight, and I've come home and you've done nothing. So you should already know what's wrong with me. You know what I mean? So when a woman says I'm fine, it's because she's like, oh, but we've already had this discussion. How many times do I need to tell you? It's not that he's not listening. It's that you're not telling him with positive reinforcement. You're telling him with negative reinforcement, and you're not connecting. Jordan Peterson, you know Jordan Peterson?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hilarious. He's so blunt. And I was listening to him one day talk about men are like rats, how you train them, and women are like mice. You put the cheese on the top of the ladder, and the mouse will just run, scurry right up and get the cheese. But the rat, to train him, you have to put it on the first rung. And so he'll go to the first rung. And he gets the reward. The cheese is on the first. Then he'll go to the second, and the cheese is on the third, fourth. Then he can eventually go, oh, that's where the cheese is. It's right at the top. We're different. We're wired differently. So if we're telling a man off for things he hasn't done, it doesn't register. My dad had a funny saying that after he broke up with his relationship, which was like 35 years, he said, well, I found out the two things that went wrong. Only two things. I said, what was that, Dad? He said, everything I did and everything I said. The only two things that happened that went wrong in the relationship, everything I did, everything I said. So, yeah, it's if we're telling a man what he's doing wrong, unfortunately, it doesn't register. If we tell him what he's doing right, oh, good boy. Sit, good boy. Come, good boy. Stay, oh, good boy. Here's a treat. Whereas if
So
we're
basically,
going,
train a man like a dog.
100%. And he'll be loyal, faithful. He'll wag his tail at you
Oh, it's brilliant. Okay,
if,
men,
if you give
you're
him
going
what
to
you
be
want.
bitches from now. So men, you're bitches. So women, train you men like a bitch.
And but it's not about being. There's the other thing that I always say is that look, and it's a mistake that a lot of us make, and I've been guilty of doing it. And I even pulled myself up talking to my son the other day, because we tell men what to do and then how to do it. No, 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 no. You can't tell him what to do and how to do it. Can you chop those carrots? He's going to go, yeah, I'll chop the carrots. You can't then say, oh no, when you chop them, I only want you to use this board and only use this knife. And when you cut them, you've got to cut this way first and do this. It's like, no, 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 no. Back off. If you've asked him to do something, you can't tell him what to do and how to do it. My son told me off because I was asking him to do the dishes. I say, I'm the cook. I am not the cleaner or the waitress. So you come to the bench and you get your dinner and take it to the table. I don't serve it to you. And I'm not the cleaner. So I was making a suggestion to him. I was trying to be helpful while he was cleaning the kitchen. I'm like, honey, if you actually, he said, no, 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 no. I'll get it clean my way. Okay. Okay. Because he's reminding me what he knows, that he doesn't need to be told how to do it. And who trained him like that? Me. Because he needs to step into his masculine power and say, no, 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 no. I don't get told what to do. You had a kind request for me to clean the kitchen. It wasn't a covert demand. It was a kind request. Now back off and let him do it. When he wants to, like I want it done immediately after dinner, he's like, I'll get to it after I've watched my show.
It reminds me so much of with the opposite, say with my mother used to do that. She would do exactly all the wrong things with me. And it's kind of what gave me a bit of a bad taste. But I remember my ex-wife once, I had that when we were with the kids. It was quite funny because she'd say to me, I need your help to look after the kids sometimes, because they were quite young. I need a break. I was like, okay, nah, that sounds good to me. Leave them with me. And then she'd go, oh, okay, but you got to do this, and this when they're there, and this. And I said, no, 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 no. And I remember one day particularly she came back and she went off at me because I hadn't fed one of them at the times when she felt it was important to feed. And, oh, it's terrible. And she's ringing her mum or one of her friends saying about it. And, oh, my husband just has no idea. I'm kind of making a big joke about it. And I sat down with her and I remember saying to her, I hear what you're saying. So I said, I suggest you fire me. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, fire me from looking after the kids. I said, it suits me perfectly fine, but you do it all the time. And I'll just go out and hang out with my mates. And when I want to play with them, I'll come and play with them. She goes, no, I need your help. I said, if you want my help, you let me
That's
run
my
them
help.
the way I want to do it. She goes, oh, but you do it all wrong. I said, well, then fire me. I said, just fire me. I'm happy to be fired. And she kind of cracked up laughing and goes, but what do you want me to do? I said, easy. If you want me to look after the kids and give you a break, I will actually do it because I like doing it, but I will do it my masculine way. You don't want two fucking mothers raising the kids. Up to you, your choice. And she cracked up and goes, okay, you
So brilliant.
bugger, done.
Because that's exactly right. Okay, what is looking after the kids? Making sure they're safe, they're fed, they haven't killed each other, they haven't destroyed the house. That's looking after the kids. Can you take my role for the day and do everything that I do in a day? That is not looking after the kids. That's taking my role for the day. So the job description that she gave you was to look after the kids, not to take her role for the day. So when a woman looks after the kids, we got one eye on the kids, we've got one eye on the cooking, we're talking on the phone
Mm.
while we're doing our hair because we've got rollers in it, we've got 4 tasks going on. But that's how our brains are. That's not how a man's brain is. So, that request to look after the kids was not just to look after the kids, and that's part of the training.
And there's also a way you can do it. Like my ex-partner was a genius in hindsight. Sammy, she'd go to me, she'd say, now, babe, she goes, do you mind if I give you a suggestion that can just make, like one time she got me to help her just because her wrist was sore, do you mind cutting the carrots? And I remember this, and she goes, would you be okay if I gave you a suggestion on how to cut the carrots in a way that I would really like them and what I find works best? And I said, oh, okay, yeah, sure. So she'd ask me, would you like a suggestion? She wouldn't come and tell me what to do. So almost every time we go, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And she'll give me some good wisdom. Or one time when I was helping her out washing the clothes, she goes to me, if you like, I can show you the best way to make sure that the clothes works really well. There's a couple of simple tricks that will make your life easier and will save you time. So she was clever because I like
Yeah,
saving time and making it easy.
yeah. Because you're communicating to the advantage of the other person. This is why everything comes down to the way that you communicate with the person. And if
Oh,
you
I've
haven't
got to tell you
learned
a
that,
funny one, Luan. Sorry to interrupt you. I've got to tell you one that will give you a good laugh. This actually happened. Whenever of course, we shared the same bathroom because we shared the same room, and I just go to the toilet, do my stuff, and leave it. And so she comes to me, and if she'd come in and go, "Oh, babe, why don't you spray the toilet after you've been?" Oh, there would have been a fight. And she goes, "Babe," she goes, "Do you think that I'm a really good partner?" And I remember this, and I said, "Absolutely, babe." And she goes, do you mind if I show you something that could really, really make me happy? I said, yeah. And she took me into the bathroom and she said, do you think it's fair that I have to smell your stuff after you've been? Just what do you think about that? And I kind of sat there and I knew I'd been snookered. And I said to her, no, not really. Because she goes, do you think that it would be fair but it'd be unreasonable of me if I asked you to actually spray after you've been so I wouldn't have to smell it? Do you think that's unreasonable? And I was very sheepishly said, no, it's not. So she goes, all you have to do is get the spray. And what you do is you hold it over the toilet and spray it like that. And she gave me the big kiss, goes, love you with all my heart. You're the best man ever. I really appreciate you listening to me. And I walked back and I'd been completely trained and snookered well and truly. And I've had
That's
about two or three women who tried to get me to do stuff like that in partners, and I'd get into fights with them, and she just trained me like a little sheep, like so easily, just by knowing how to communicate with me.
and not telling that you've done something wrong, but
Mm.
this is how you could do something for me. Not that you've
Yes.
done something wrong. This is how you could do something for me. And a man goes, well, if I'm going to get appreciation because I'm doing something for the woman, then I'm not going to get nagged.
Yes, and I think, and one other thing that works very well. I remember one time she asked me to do something for her. It was a bit like, oh, and she goes to me, "I'll give you a really good blowjob afterwards."
Okay.
That
See, this is a
always
fair
works.
exchange, not a compromise. I always, at the beginning of any relationship, I say to people, we should swap out the narrative of compromise, replace the word compromise for agreements or fair
Mm,
exchanges. I will often let a person know right at the very, very beginning. If you invited a friend to a party and your friend couldn't go to the party, would you be upset with your friend? And most guys would say no. And I said, well, because sometimes you're going to ask me to go to a party and I'm going to say no, because I don't really like big crowds. I prefer connected, intimate conversations rather than big social gatherings. So I don't want you to make that about you or me. It's just not something I like to do. As far as sport is concerned, I won't be coming to sporting events with you either, because I don't like it. Now, if a man actually knew what my values were and knew how to communicate properly in my values, and he really wanted me to come to this sporting event, if he said to me, um, I've been invited to the corporate box. I've got a corporate box, the football's on, and we've got a corporate box, come along. I'd be like, honey, I don't really want to go. You won't have to do anything. You like to eat and you like to drink. There's food and there's alcohol, and you won't have to even do anything. Okay, well, you know what? I feel really bad. Give that to somebody who really loves the football, because I feel like I'm taking something from somebody that would like, take someone that really wants to. But if he said, got a friend who's broken up with his partner, he really wants to meet you. He's not going to call your agency, but he's intrigued about meeting you. He wants to have a conversation with you. We've got the corporate box on Friday night. Can you come along? Guess what I'm going to say? Yes. Because he's communicated to me in my values. He's linked what the outcome he wants, which is for me to come, with something that's valuable to me. And that communication, that style of communication, has created a yes. And if we knew how to do that to our partners, where it's a win-win situation, we'd have very, very connected relationships, or we'd have certainly less drama-filled relationships.
mm.
I was reading a stat the other day, and it sort of blew me away a little bit, actually. 70% of relationships break up in the first year. 70%.
That's
That's
pretty high.
because that's just extraordinary. That's because people just go, nah, I don't want to work through any challenge. Soon as something gets a little bit hard, nah, don't want to do it. I'll just get somebody else. Extraordinary. They don't want to do the hard work. Hard work is putting up
Yes.
with other people's stuff that you don't necessarily like. Figuring out how to compromise, how to not compromise because you feel resentful when you compromise. How do we make agreements and have a fair exchange? And how do we conflict? And how do we solve problems? And how do we stay united moving forward in a relationship rather than just going next? You
Yes.
got there? Are you reading your comments?
Yes. So is just having a look at some of the other ones. Deborah says, when I backed off in the last relationship and didn't explain how to wash clothes, he would always do low water, too much powder, and nothing was clean. When I asked him to help, he would say, I'm not doing it anymore because I'm no good, lol. So yes, that
Yeah.
may be where you would come in the suggestions that we're talking about, the way you do it. Like, look, it'd be amazing. If you're going to do the washing, I would really appreciate it. Do you mind if I give you a couple of tips that can make it even better? You know, maybe that could be the way of doing it.
You know, the trick is that that positive appreciation and reinforcement after it. And even though so he's hung out the washing, and you say, "Oh, thank you so much for doing that. You know what? It was just nice to be able to come home and the washing's hung out. And I actually really appreciate that. Thank you." He goes, "I got all that. Thank you for hanging out the washing. I might do that again.
Yeah.
How else can I help her? How else can I help her?" And that over time is exactly what happens.
So
People
true.
used to say to me, "How do you get your husband to do everything? Like your husband does everything." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? Well, our husbands do nothing. Your husband goes and does the groceries, he cleans up automatically, you cook together, he baths the kids, he does all these things." It's like, "Well, that's because we're a partnership and because he gets the appreciation from doing it.
Hmm.
Thank you. Every time he'd bath the kids. Thanks so much for doing that."
It's true, you know, because when my Sammy would always thank me for every little thing I would do for her, like, "Oh, you're such an amazing man. I can't believe you did that for me. I feel so grateful to have you." And I'd be like, "Oh, so I'd want to do more for her then."
Of course. Of course. If you say to a man, and you actually really have to be very specific. "Can you help me clean up?" Go look around and go, "Clean up what? What do you want me to do?" "I don't know, anything. Just help. Just
Hmm.
help." You know, it's just, oh, just anything. Like everything needs to be done. All I'm asking for is for you to help. Mm, would you be able to do the dishes and sweep the floors for me while I have a bath? Because that will really allow me to just chill so we can spend some time together. So if you could get the dishes done and sweep the floor for me, I'd really appreciate it. Tell him exactly what you want done, not just can you help. Help what? I have helped. I've been at work all day. I've come home. I've earned the money. I'm here. What more help? What do you want?
Yeah, in fact, there's a very good comment here. Eileen asked, "How do you get back out on the dating scene after deliberately not dating for years? What would you recommend? To join a club?"
How do you get back out on the dating scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, obviously you've got to create opportunities for yourself. Okay, so you've got to go, I need opportunities to meet people. So what tools am I going to use? Or what methods am I going to use for actually meeting people? Am I going to use dating apps? Do I want to put in the time and effort into using a dating app? And I will tell people that we all know there's not a single person sitting in this forum that couldn't say that we know somebody that's met through a dating app. So we can't say dating apps are necessarily bad. However, if you're going to put yourself on a dating app, you have to realize that you are lowering your value. Okay. When you're on a dating app, you are a low ticket item, unfortunately, because everybody has access to you. Everybody has access to treat you poorly, to ghost you, breadcrumb you, deceive you. You have to be okay with that. You have to say, that is part of the conditions that I'm prepared to accept if I'm going to date. So figuring out what my strategy is going to be. If you are going to lose weight, for example, and you're going to get on a fitness, you get a strategy. Right, okay, I'm going to exercise 4 days a week. I'm going to eat this many calories. I'm going to do whatever. And you have a plan. People go out trying to find a relationship, which is one of the most important decisions they'll ever make. They've got no plan. They've got no guidance. They get on an app, swipe away, go on a few dates, get treated poorly and go, "Oh my God, this is awful." So first of all, you have to ask yourself a question. Would I be okay if something didn't work out? So if I met somebody and I really like them and it didn't work out, will I be okay? First question, if that's a yes, I've actually got a list of 7 questions that you need to really ask yourself and be able to answer yes to all of them before you actually know that you're ready to date. So I can give that to anybody that's in the chat later. But if you don't want to spend 20 to 30 hours a week sourcing your own matches, which is exactly what you will have to do if you go on a dating app, then you can outsource, you can get a matchmaker. Of course, I've got to throw that in, aren't I? But there's also, I've just put out a program, Warren, which is called Connection in Real Life. And it's modern dating, but with the old-fashioned twist of actually meeting people. Where do you go to meet somebody in real life? If you don't want to go to pubs and clubs and social events, there's plenty of places that you can be, that you can position yourself to meet the right people and to make a plan and to have a strategy of how you're going to do that. Because you don't need a dating app, you don't need anything, but you do need a plan. Can somebody build wealth without a plan, Warren?
Not very easily, no.
No. Without some discipline?
No. And not without getting out there and doing some steps and having a plan and being organized and yeah, actually following through with it.
And learning. And really the first thing that we need to understand is, what is my dating market value? Not our false expectation or a false fantasy of what we think we're bringing to the table. What is actually my market value in dating? And being really clear about knowing, is what I'm bringing what the market wants? Is this what the market's after? And if we can't modify ourselves, unfortunately, that's in every area of life. We have to be prepared to give something up in order to get something back. If you're creating wealth for yourself, you have to give up your poor spending habits, be dedicated to a savings and investment plan. You have to give up to get something over here. And that's the same as dating and relationships. What am I prepared to give up? Am I prepared to give up the notion that I don't need a man? Am I prepared to give up needing everything to be the way I want it to be? Am I prepared to give up the fear of being hurt? So we have to know, what can I lose in order to gain? One of the most important things for us to remember is that we can do all the self-development work in the world. You can go, right, I had this terrible relationship, I've worked on myself and I'm ready. It's very easy to work on yourself and not get triggered when you're not in a relationship. Okay, because you don't get triggered when you're not in a relationship. So the real healing, you can get the tools by working with a coach or a counselor or a psychologist or whatever. They can give you some tools. But until you're in a position to use those tools, that the healing can't be done. Only the tools can be gained, and you can manage your emotions a little bit. But when you're with a partner and one of those triggers happen, the only way you can really truly heal is inside of a relationship. So staying single isn't a strategy for healing.
No.
Working on
No,
yourself.
that's something I learned. You know, the best way to heal, it's like if you play sport and get injured, the best thing to do is to get out there and play sport again.
You've got to plough you've got to, what is it when they prepare the soil before they put the next crop in?
Mm.
You do your
Wow.
harvest, you plough everything out, you get that soil ready, you give it some nutrients before you replant. So it is important to make sure that you have got time to get over past hurts and to not bring so much trauma into the next relationship. But the relationship is really the only thing that's going to make you grow. because that's what they're there for. And going through conflict and getting over the conflict and working through that together, that's what takes you to the next level of growth, not just having the tools to do it and then never doing it.
Yes. Gosh, there's so much to do. I mean, what I might do is, as we're covered quite a bit now, anyone got any questions they particularly want to ask Luanne, while we're here? And just give your feedback. Who's enjoying it? What's been your best learning so far? Deborah, all great advice. I'd love the 7 questions, please.
I can give those to you. Got
Yep.
lots of little resources that I can give. And if anybody wants to get on my mail list, on Friday I send out some really good resources. Sometimes they're stories, sometimes they're downloads, sometimes they're ebooks, sometimes they're, I don't know, all sorts of different things. But it's a good list, and it's a lot of information on where you can go, how do you meet people, conversations that you can have, other people's experiences, telling stories. So there's a lot of good resources there too.
Yes, I'm just having a look. So your website, I mean, we're going to be obviously be letting everyone know who's registered for this, giving it to you. But it's LouanneWardMatchmaking.com.au. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, that sort of obviously is about what the matchmaking business is, and the coaching. There's a little bit on the coaching there, but the best success I will ever have with somebody is when they understand who they are. Because until you really understand who they are, most people say, yeah, I know who they are. And you've been through the DeMartini process and doing your values. So you see where you're empowered and you see where your voids are. Taking people through that process to actually show them what sort of partner they really need to fulfill them is kind of the theory of, you can feed a man a fish or you can teach him to fish. And if you teach him to fish, you feed him for life. So I'm more about giving the tools that people need. And I can certainly do the matchmaking very, very easily as well. But my socials are a great place to connect as well. So my Facebook, Louanne Ward, is a great place to connect, and a lot of information on there too.
Yeah, I'll just put your details into the chat so people can have the Luanne Ward matchmaking. And then, of course, the social as well. People can find you in there as well. So,
yeah, Facebook, Instagram. And then if anybody wants anything or further information on any of the topics that we've discussed, I could pretty much guarantee that I'll have some blueprint, quiz, dating market value. I've got a dating market value quiz, which is really, really cool. It does your dating market value and then the dating market value of the person that you want to date, and seeing how close you are in those scores. So it's quite fun.
oh, right, you got one of those, have you? A dating
There's a
market
lot of,
value.
if their dating market value is, let's say they get 70 out of 100, but they want to date a 95 out of 100, you've got a little bit of a deficit here.
That's kind of why you have these things like sugar babies or sugar mummies. That's where you balance out the ledger from a dating market value inequality. Like you might get a 23-year-old grand smokingly hot girl and a 50-year-old guy who's, kind of not as who's still quite good value. He's successful, but not basically 95. And then, of course, the amount of money
Well,
balances.
exactly. And look, if you have those sort of sites and you're a
Yeah,
man and you think that you're going to fall in love and find this perfect woman on one of those sites, it's pretty unlikely that that's going to happen. But you're going to fulfill each other's needs for a period of time.
yeah.
But I'd like to have another conversation with you about, oh God, there's so many topics, but one of them being the stats on the men under 30, under 35, there's becoming a very big percentage of sexless men out there.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So,
Many men.
and
I
that's
know many men who are in their 20s and they just I had a very interesting discussion actually with a man, a family member who's very switched on in this area. And he said this to me. He said, the biggest thing is, he said, a lot of the guys are nervous because a woman can just turn around and say anything about you. I mean, next minute you're presumed guilty until innocent now in the media. So he said a lot of young men are being very scared off from dating. And even his own son, who's quite a successful sportsman, he said he's just staying far away from women because he doesn't want to be set up.
wow, scary, huh?
Mm. Yeah,
That
Warwick,
is.
getting some good comments here. Warwick says, great session. I wish I had this advice when I was on the hunt. Yeah, no, she's pretty good, Warwick. Ben Island says, when I was in my 40s, I've kept getting hit on by 20-year-olds. Not my thing. Darlene says, all great advice. Thank you so much. Appreciate to hear the advice of a professional. I found online dating a nightmare and felt really unsafe. Maybe the wrong sites. I don't know which ones I could. Ben Michelle, thanks you very much for what you taught today.
It's really absolutely a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me. And if anybody's got any questions later, they're happy, happy for them to message me through any of my channels and I'll answer any questions.
And look, who here would like us to do it? And who
And
here would
I
like
think,
us to do? Sorry, go on. Go on.
so I was going to say, I think people are very brave, putting themselves out there and dating. But like I said, staying single is not a strategy for avoiding pain. It's not a strategy, and it takes a lot of courage to actually to date, but you can do it in a way that is just so natural and safe and easy and independently. It's not that hard.
And the last question, who here would like, because Luanne and I have talked about doing some more classes together, and especially to start covering more specific issues on men to get women or women to get men, and just a few other things about chemistry. Just if you'd be interested in hearing more on this one, just give us a bit of feedback, type a Y or raise your hand. Just who would be interested in doing some more, because I know Luanne and I are very keen to have a bit of a natter. And like I said, you're dealing with someone who's a real expert. And yes, you're definitely getting plenty of comments. You may not be Taylor Swift, Luanne, but you certainly got some interest.
Oh, thanks, Warren.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on, Luanne, and
Yep.
look forward to our next podcast.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later,
Bye then.
everybody. Thank you for being here.